Welcome back to Faith and Fire. Today's episode, we're doing something new and fun. We're going to start a new segment called After the Sermon, where I get together with a few of my friends and we talk about a sermon that we all watched and we give you our hot takes. Like, what did we hear? What did we like? What did we think? And how does it relate to our everyday lives? So today I'm going to introduce all of my fellow panel members. So we got Ava representing the AME Church. I myself am representing a non-denominational church. We got Tracy, Baptist for life. And then we got Sharee representing Bedside Baptist.
That's right. Non-denominational bedside.
Non-denominational bedside Baptist.
Yes.
So let me just tee it up by telling all of our friends at home who haven't watched it what we watched. And then they can also slide to the bottom of the episode and find the link if they want to go do it directly. So this was a sermon from Pastor Sean Moore from Faith Christian Center in Phoenix. And he did a sermon called Accepted. And it's part of a 3-part series. The first one was about unhealthy need for acceptance and validation. The second one was about rejection. And then the third one was about perfectionism. Maybe I relate to it a little bit. So I wanted to talk through this one. So he used 3 scriptures. So if you're one of those people like, what scripture do I need to go to in the Bible so I can highlight it? So you're going to turn to the Bibles in Philippians 1 and 6, Galatians 3, 2 through 4, and Matthew 5, 4 through 8. So go ahead and put the episode on pause if you want to watch the episode. Don't worry, I'll wait. And then you can come back around and join the conversation. Okay, so we're going to pretend like you did that and we back. So now y'all.
Right.
Yes. Y'all. Okay, I don't know about the rest of you, but didn't anybody else feel like you needed to get out your business?
I was like, why are we in my street today?
Oh my gosh.
Why are we on my street this
I thought
morning?
I had been delivered. I really did. And then I listened and was like, well, clearly I have not been delivered because some of this cuts a little bit. And I didn't appreciate it.
I started reaching for my anxiety medicine. Like, oh God, this is me.
And anxiety just thinking about the perfectionism. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear I wasn't the only one because I was like, I'm not going to lie. I think you hear it a little bit in the recording, but in the church, when I heard this sermon live, it was like I was like, oh, y'all perfectionists too?
Yes.
Okay, I love it.
I think a generation raised on, most of us were in gifted and talented programs, and you were told you need to be perfect and do all this work. And I'm like, okay, you're undoing my childhood. Like, what are you doing?
Right. And our perfectionism, like be perfect, was earned. It wasn't like my sons get gold stars for everything.
Yeah.
No, we earned those gold stars because our parents made them do it, us do it all. Right. So it was like,
We were coached through that. There was something about that. It was, you have to do twice as you have to work twice as hard just to get half of what your counterparts are getting. So there were all of these little sayings that were to keep you on the straight and narrow of no, keep going. So there was this whole narrative that you were always buying into that was telling you, oh, no, I'm supposed to be getting that. I'm supposed to get this, and then I'm supposed to go get that. There's always a next. There's always a goal. There's always a target. So you get to the point where you're like, wait, this is bad? When did this become bad?
Right? So he did this insulting thing where he started listing off these symptoms.
Oh.
And hold on, we're going to do this put a finger down edition. So if you're at home, go ahead and put your fingers up. And okay, put a finger down if you have unrealistic expectations of self and others. Put a finger down if you are driven by fear of failure. Put a finger down if you procrastinate. Put a finger down if you tend to avoid challenges, not because you don't think you can do it, but if you're not going to be perfect at it, then you don't even want to try. Put a finger down if you have a sense of unworthiness sometimes. And yes, that's also imposter syndrome. If you have that, go ahead and put that finger down. Put a finger down if you compare yourself to other people. Put a finger down if you sometimes have a rigid all or nothing thinking, like either I'm going to be perfect at it or I'm not even going to do it.
I think it depends on the situation.
Okay.
What if it's like a half down, half up?
Down. Put a finger down if sometimes you have low self-esteem because you're not being perfect impacts your self-esteem. Put a finger down if sometimes you don't mean to, but sometimes you're a little critical of yourself and others. Like, I'm glad there were only 9 items because at least I got my pinky finger up. Skiwi. So
I don't know.
Oh,
It's hard
yeah.
because we we were raised in the 9/9s and the 2, right? Like it was this idea of perfectionism in all ways. And how do you get to that? And because we're all products of the late 70s for me, early 80s for, you know what I mean? Like that's just what Black people did. We worked to be better than everybody else because we were trying to get to a level, good, bad, right, or wrong. But it is very much so human nature to want to be your best and do your best and look your best and feel your best. And it was very convicting. Like, it was very convicting.
There was a quote that I remember Alice Walker was having a conversation with Oprah. And she mentioned that one time she recognized that every single time her child would come into the room, she would be like, pull up your pants and, walk straight and just kind of taking it in and assessing it. And then in that moment, trying to self-correct him.
Yeah.
And realized when she was doing it, it was like, wait a second, how many times am I just stopping that part and just pouring into them and then just saying something that you love or something positive or something affirming? And hearing her saying that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, my children are really in trouble because that's what I do all the time. But that's how, those are the environments that a lot of us were raised in.
Yeah.
And there was a reason for that culturally, why those things happen. But that byproduct of it is then you end up with this, critical eye that never seems to shut off.
So let's start there with the critical of self or others, because I noticed that in myself too. My son is on a journey where he's trying to get really good at basketball. He's like trying to get to the NBA. I'm like, let's start with college and we'll see where we go from there.
He has made a jump in his head, like a Michael Jordan leap.
100%.
He's there.
And so my way of being supportive is to try to help him get better. And I've had to be careful in how I do that. Not saying, I'm a recovering perfectionist, but it's an ing gerund because it's still happening. But one of the things I started doing intentionally was using some of the tools that I learned from my professional life around how to use like some of the grow principles and things with him. So instead of giving him feedback by just telling him what he did wrong at practice or in a game, I'll ask him, what does he think he did well? Where did he get stuck? He hates that question. I always have to rephrase it. And then what would he do differently next time? And I feel like it's helped us have better conversations where I normally would go to critical, not because I don't, I'm proud of him no matter what. I'm not trying to tear him down, but sometimes it just comes out that way because you want to fix people to make them perfect.
Yeah.
I think we've always grown up with evaluation. The way we were in grade school, always taking tests. And then, they talk too much in class or they don't talk enough. And it was always critical. It wasn't how to improve. Like I actually didn't talk a lot and I still have moments of not talking. My teacher would write, Ava's not very engaging with her other peers. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? I'm outside playing, like I play with them. But she meant I don't talk to them. And I was just shy. And I didn't know how to come out of the little shell to talk to people. And as I got older, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they mean. I have to actually talk to people if I want to go out and play or study with them or whatever. But I think as generations are coming out, they're rewarded for everything. And so they don't know what critical to us means because we grew up with this hypersensitivity and the anxiety of always having someone watch us. And now they're like, well, why are you watching me? Why do you have something to say about I get an award for everything? Because we grew up so opposite of them. So our anxiety level compared to maybe your son's is totally different. So grow technique probably works really well.
He is so lackadaisical about everything.
Like he doesn't practice or he practices because mine don't practice, but they want to be soccer stars.
Right? He'll practice, but like if it comes between playing video game time or going outside and practicing on his own,
he's going to opt for video games.
Now that said, like literally this week, he's had practice 5 days of the week. So he's in the gym a lot, but he could be doing more. He's behind the curve. There are kids who were born with a basketball in his hand. He's only been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but we're not going to be critical of him
during
the perfectionist.
No.
Is it perfection or is it this desire to be excellent?
See, that's so good, right? Because they said like excellence is a saved version of perfectionism.
Yeah, that one hit me different because I felt like that was a setup because you want to do something in excellence and you want to do something well.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with doing something well? I feel like there's nothing wrong with trying to be excellent and that being the goal.
Yeah.
But I do think having realistic expectations about how you get there maybe is where the perfectionism comes into play. Because at the end of the day, I still want it to be excellent.
Right.
Even if it can't be perfect, I still want it to be excellent.
I also
Right.
think perfect is in the eye of the beholder. And excellence is not everybody does things at my level, right? I had to teach myself a really long time ago that different is not deficient. And my level of excellence is very different than someone else's. I felt like he was really leaning into this idea of perfectionism as almost like vanity. Excellence is just you doing your best, giving your best. The lens that I kept like looking through was like, are you treating perfectionism like a vanity, like you're coming from a very vain place, versus excellence where you're like, I just want everybody to do their best, and your best is your best. It's not going to be perfect because we understand God is perfect. Like I was like, I get it, sir. God is, we get it. But
the perfect person.
right. But it's the differentiation between excellence and perfection, and this layer of vanity almost that I felt kept popping into the message. Like I was like, so you're saying I'm kind of vain because I want to be perfect? Or do I just want to be excellent? And then I was like, no, I just want to be excellent. So whatever excellence looks like.
Well, I feel like the excellence part is when he was giving the example of Adam and Eve and the tree. Like you're touching the tree. The excellence is the tree. You're touching it. But once you reach up and grab that apple is the vanity part. And you're like, well, I want to touch that apple because you told me not to. And
Right.
so I'm going to strive for that. And I feel like we're chasing these things as men. You know, we want to have the perfect husband, wife, whatever, kids, job. But how do you do that if someone's always putting an evaluation in front of you? Everybody evaluates their life, you know, and it's like, yes, God is evaluating our life in a way, but at the same time, there's no clear measurement to what life should be like. What is the perfect life? What is the perfect, you know, whatever avenue to get there? But we're always chasing this dream. What is it? How do I not be so perfectionistic to get there?
And I think that was interesting around are we using a measuring stick, or are we holding ourselves up to a higher standard than God holds our lives to?
Yeah.
And I think that's where that prayer and studying the Bible kind of come to. Mostly the prayer for me is just like, okay, what do you want from me in this situation? How do you want me to show up? Like having that constant conversation. He like, look, if you're not going to read the book, you got to talk to me.
Right. At least open it.
Yes. And so I think that's where we have to get clear from him, where is the bar, and not set the bar for ourselves, because we'll set it somewhere. And he's like, I didn't ask her to do that.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think the struggle with the bar is depending on which Bible scholar you ask, right? There are different bars, because some people will start at like the literal 10 Commandments. And it's like, well, listen, that is Old Testament, but also the 10 Commandments were like, thou shalt not kill. You mean the food I eat, right? Like the level of bar changes depending on which preacher you're listening to. You're laughing, and I'm not joking.
No, I'm laughing because my head, I'm like, so what we not killing?
Right. Like it's
This weed?
right. How do you like
This weed?
because there are several. Just saying. But like depending on the preacher and how they interpret the Bible,
Right.
there's going to be a different bar and a different level. It's why culturally we have these culture wars right now specific to, you know, same-sex marriage in the church. And what does the Bible say about things like that? What does the Bible say about divorce? What does the Bible say about a whole bunch of things? That word like covet and obey. What did I not say in my vows? One of them.
Obey.
Obey.
I remember.
Didn't say, right? Like all of the, depending on the preacher and how they interpret it is how it's delivered to you as someone sitting in the audience. And so it is kind of left up to interpretation.
And that's where you got to go back and talk to
Yes.
God and be
Yes.
like, okay, God, because your book, I read it a couple of times. I highlighted some things in my app, but can you help me here?
We're all going to hear different things.
Yeah.
We're all going to, I heard the voice of God before I ever heard any preacher talking to me about anything, or even before I could read. So, you know, it's that saying, spirit recognizes spirit before flesh recognizes flesh. When you can understand what God is saying to you, and the Holy Spirit is speaking to you in a way you can't even sometimes articulate into words, that's a message directly for you. It's personalized. It's for you. It's about you, about your situation, and about your timing. That sometimes, the other things get left open to interpretation based off of where they're coming from in their doctrine, where they're coming from in their translations. I mean, there are so many different things and ways you can look at it.
That's a good point, though, right? It's like I say all this, and I guess it makes a really big assumption that you know how to listen to the voice of God, and that you know how to hear what He says.
Yeah.
Same assumption I think we make with the Bible. Everybody's like, "Well, just read the Bible and I'll give you the answers." But you're like, Shebab begot Jebab and Kaibab Wachuka, and like no one knows what that meant. Yes. So, there's a level of discernment that you need. And if you don't have that there, well, I mean, how do you then set the bar? And I think we argue over the bar more. And so here's what I heard when you said it. I was like, you pray for your own bar, not someone else's.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's completely
You
and
have
totally
to.
individualized.
I don't want to live my life like any of you. I mean, I want us to all live a koinonia fellowship where we come together and you sup and you do all those things. Mm-hmm. But like when I get to heaven, He's not going to ask me about your attendance. He's going to ask me about mine. And so the prayer for me is always like, let my walk be my walk, and let my walk be a witness to somebody else so that they can start their own walk and their own journey. So I don't, it drives me crazy. And this is a detour when women are like, the Lord told me to tell you, baby. And I'm like, well, did He? Because He sure enough ain't told me.
Did He leave me a text? Did I not answer my phone?
And listen, I do believe that there are spiritual intercessors, and I have witnessed the supernatural move of an intercessor in my life personally. But like, you have to have that discernment. And I know who you are.
Yes.
When I know who the intercessors are, because they're oily, and you look at them and you're like, ooh, yes, Ibo Bashandala. But the ones who walk up to you that are like, sugar, the Lord told me to tell you.
That's the devil walking up to you.
Sister so-and-so, the Lord didn't tell you that, man.
Right.
But you can't say that to their face.
You just say, thank you.
Say, oh, thank you, Sister so-and-so.
But our walks shouldn't mirror each other. So like our levels of perfectionism or the desire for excellence shouldn't mirror each other.
Yeah.
Because we're different.
Okay, well, let's talk about different, right? Because that was one of the things that got me when they talk about, he went into the whole thing about how to love other people who may have a different standard of excellence.
Yes.
And I instantly thought of this one guy I dated who said, I like to go with the flow. And I'm like, I love that for you, but that's not how I do things.
That is not my ministry.
Especially not in a relationship.
We're just going to go with the flow.
But in life, he was just like, whatever. I woke up yesterday and I thought I might go help the people in Haiti. Oh no, this not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Definitely not for you.
God bless you on your journey. No.
I love that you want to help the people in Haiti.
He was out of your orbit.
He was out of my orbit, because our orbits would have been just on different planets. And he would have been like, I woke up today and want to go to Haiti. And I'd be like, I woke up today and I would like to continue the routine that I've had for the last 20 years. So different. But also I think what he said was so important is you still have to respect that person.
Yes.
You have to show up, even if you don't like romantic love them, you got to love them as a person. And I love how they said some of the stuff that we think of the people who think differently. They're like, okay, they think if you're a perfectionist, you think the people aren't a perfectionist, they're slovenly, that they're lazy and this and that. And I was like, well, what if they are sometimes? And I think the important thing was just trusting that if you care about someone, if you love somebody, even if it's just loving thy neighbor, kind of loving somebody, that you respect how they feel and how they show up, and you don't devalue it. Just like you don't want them to be like, oh, you being extra. Oh, you doing too much. Oh, don't. Somebody told me to calm down the other day, and I was like, oh, you lost your whole mind.
Not calm down.
Oh, wow.
I think it's, for me, it hit me because when I had just finished watching the news, and there's a whole lot happening. And it's this debate right now about Israel and Palestine and how religion is showing up here in the U.S. And I remembered, I used to live overseas. I lived in Turkey. And I remember my father telling us a story of someone who was Muslim, even though we're very Baptist. And so we worshiped on base. But we went to a mosque, and I was just so very enamored with it because it was just not church like I was used to. And he was like, here's the thing. As much as you love God, they love their God, right? And that doesn't make Allah different or being of Muslim faith different in a bad way. It's just different. They're showing up different. Hindus show up different, right? And you still have to love them even though it's different. So when you think about all of the crazy that's happening, those men that are jihad, that are fighting a battle, they genuinely believe they are fighting a battle. Good, bad, right, wrong, ugly. They believe that they are in the middle of a holy war.
Yeah.
And as ugly as it is, the Bible still tells you to love. So how do you love that? And then how do you wrap your brain around the level of excellence, perfectionism that you, like, they're exhibiting? For them, they're like, I will die for my cause. And you're like, my God, different God, same level of perfectionism, excellence.
Right.
And this culture war that's happening is just what kept resonating with me. Like, I was like, I can deal with my own perfectionism later. There's some like cultural issues we have to deal with, right? And it's this one-up mentality, or mine is better than yours. And when in reality, we're all still God's children. Whether you believe in the God that I serve or the God that you serve, we're all still children of the Creator.
I love to say that we're like 90% we believe the same things, and it's like we love to argue over the last 10%. Oh my gosh, we love that last 10%. Like,
It's a distraction.
it is.
Yep.
It's a distraction. We're more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
And when we take the time off, it's such a distraction. It keeps us from focusing on what God has called us to do, wherever we are in our walk, wherever we are in our journey. And if we pay attention to that part, and we get to the point, I remember there was a vision that God showed me, because I was having some issues with my perfectionism and looking at other people's, going, well, that doesn't look the way I think it should look, and helping me a little bit with judgment. And that I just showed me how unqualified I was to judge someone else in their process, in their life, along in their journey, not understanding what they've been through, what it takes for them to hold the space that they're currently in, what it takes for them to get to the next step from where they are. And that what the best thing I could do for that person is to give them love and grace. And reminded me of when I was in places where I was like, oh goodness, not only how am I going to get out, but how did I get here to this place off the path, this ungodly place? How do I get out? And really appreciating those people who would give me grace and would just give me love and not judgment at that moment in time. And reminding me, sometimes you just got to let people say, I don't know what you're going through, but, I hope everything's going to be all right. And just, I wish you love while you're doing it, while you're figuring all that out.
Yeah. One of the things you hit on was comparison. And I see that show up for myself, even in my faith walk, right? Like, you'll be like, oh, she talking in tongues. I don't talk in tongues. I just know how to pray in English. And like, you might feel, that was a delayed reaction. Like, you be sitting there, like, comparing yourself to the person next to you. And then you slip into the imposter syndrome. Like, do I love God as much as I love God? Like, is this thing still on? Lord, you still listening? I'm only speaking in English, but can you hear me too? And like, you start to compare yourself to other people around. Do y'all ever feel like that, or am I the only one?
It's that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. Yes. And I'm just like, every time I start being like, well, she's doing this and I should be doing this and I should be doing that, I realize, like, okay, you're doing a lot of things that people wish they could sit in your seat and do. And then even like when I'm like, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself even in church, but I'm like, oh, that person's a really good speaker. That person's a really good singer. And then people come up to me, baby, you sing so good. We didn't even know you could solo. And I'm like, what? Like, I was just, because nobody was on the stage, But at the same time, like, if you're constantly looking around the room, you're never going to feel like you're good. You're good enough. And, that's been kind of what I've been praying about. Like, God, just show me, like, I don't think I'm good enough. And I'm like, you're good enough. He created you to be good enough. You're good enough. But it steals your joy. It steals everything from you. So it's hard to, going back to this perfectionism, if you're constantly looking and swiveling, you're never going to be good enough.
You know, one of the things I love about being bedside Baptist is that there's no one there to compare me to myself to. And I went to church in person, and I don't go in person for lots of different reasons, which are really my business. But, I
support it. I'm just saying.
We saw the same sermon.
We did.
We really did. And it's always this way. But on Easter, There was a few of us who went in person. And, I go to the same church. I listen to the same things. And so I'm there and in spirit, right? And I'm walking out of church and I'm saying hello to different people that I know. And I'm walking out and I see someone that I know. And he looks and he goes, "Oh, you finally showed up." And I just said,
yes, thank you for taking attendance for me. But I've been here where you been.
I was like, praise the Lord for the saints. But because I know my journey, I didn't let him bother me or steal that joy. I just chuckled myself all the way to the parking lot and be like, see, this is what I don't miss when I'm at home and I'm in my own zone and me and the Lord are having a wonderful time. And there is nothing to compare it to because all I'm doing is like checking my own work and going, okay, so I see how that showed up this week. Or, oh, okay, I'm going to remember that going forward versus me thinking about who's taking my attendance.
Right.
Versus, how you been? I missed you. Are you okay?
Taking your attendance and your tithes.
But just like, well, thank you for checking on me.
See, I had a smart remark in my head. I don't even know this gentleman. I was going to be like, "Oh, thank you. I missed you too. I didn't see you when they panned the audience the last few times. Did you miss?" I am a little sometimes.
I had it in my head, but I was proud of myself because I didn't say it out loud because I was like, you know what? There's some things
the problem.
I could share with you right now.
Yes.
But I'm just going to say it's good to see you.
I need you to pray for my tongue because I'm not artistically inclined. I'm linguistically inclined. And so I've always had to watch my mouth because I could cut somebody down with my tongue so fast.
Yes.
And I have to be careful not to use that power for evil, but to use it for good on faith and fire.
Yes.
You held it in so well for so long and then it came out.
I think I'm the opposite of Ava. We just did a conference coming off of it. So this past weekend, and I found myself like, I have a really great opportunity, right? Like I serve in really cool positions that I never in a million years would have ever imagined I could have, right? Like could never imagine. And so for me, I walk into the room like, oh, I have to present. Oh, right. It is imposter syndrome because I'm in the position and I'm just like, but God, why me? Right. Like it's that, you have grace, unmerited favor, all those things. But it's like, oh, me, like I get to do these things. And I love behind the scenes. And so a lot of what I'm doing now is not. And it is very difficult because it's like, oh, me, you want me to do this. Why me, God? And every time I'm like, no, God, this isn't me. He's like, sure, do the presentation, right? Like it is hard because it's the grace and the favor that you never expect because never would have asked for it. Was never paying attention in chapter meetings when I was in undergrad and in grad at some point, right? Like would have never imagined the opportunity for it to show up. And it just showed up. And I didn't ask for it. I haven't asked for any of it. I've asked for some of it to go away. It has not. But it's that, okay, God, so it's imposter in reverse, but you still feel it every single time you walk into the room, every single time you have to do something. And then there are members that come up to you and affirm you. Like, they're like, you're doing a great job. You did this, you did that. And I'm like, really? Okay. Whew, okay.
Yeah.
It works both ways where you find yourself like, it's like, I'm just me. I'm just chill. No, you're going to do this. Oh, I am? Okay. Okay, God. Sure. I would like to sit in the corner though.
Did you know you called me? Did you check the number before you dialed?
Am I the right person? Like I literally, I
Can you call Jessica today? I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Like literally told an international president, are you sure you want me?
What'd she say?
And she was like, are you Tracy?
Well, hold on. Did I have the right person? Maybe I did dial the wrong number.
No, I am her. She was like, then yes, dear, yes. And
That's what it says on this paper.
Okay, God. Okay, so sometimes it is us thinking we're not as great as we are and then being affirmed by others because you are just living out your faith walk. And you're like, oh, a door opened and it wasn't even a door you were looking for. Oh, you can, girl, you can, did you know you could sing? And you're like, I just thought I was a great little alto, contralto, whatever. No. And then that's about the understanding you have this level of perfectionism for yourself, but maybe not in that area, right? Like I want to be great in the sound booth, but clearly things have shifted and I need to learn to be comfortable in other places.
It's so interesting because like that imposter syndrome almost is a sense of perfectionism. It's because you feel like you would need to be perfect in order to be elevated to that level.
Right.
That part.
And I don't belong, or I don't feel like I fit it because I'm not perfect and it's not the right timing, or I haven't been in it long enough, or, you know, it's like when you get the promotion at your job and you're kind of like, ooh, and you sit in your desk the first time and you're like, ooh, don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out.
See,
Fake it till you make it.
when I got my first job with my big fancy salary, I called my mama from the bathroom and I said, Mama, do you know how much I'm making to go to the bathroom right now?
Because you're like, oh, that's my title? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
She said, stop calling me from the bathroom.
Call from your desk because you have a door, not a cubicle
Wait a
anymore.
minute. I had a cubicle, so I needed to call from the bathroom. It was my first day.
Space.
Yes.
Space.
I can't just be on the phone in my cubicle on my first
I don't know what
day.
I'm
Calling
doing.
it might be
Mama.
my last.
I got this title. It's like when they're like, you leveled up and you adulted, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
Ooh, that's like when I first got my first leadership position. Talk about imposter syndrome when you're a new leader. And like, I was like, I can't delegate to people because I can't tell other people what to do because you're used to being valued for your own contributions. And like, you get a lot of that. Like, I'm not good enough. What if I ruin their careers and mine? Like every thought, every doubt, everything on the put a finger down just comes to bear all at once. I'd say like more so than any other job I've had or anything like that, leading a team. Ooh, like, you feel like you do have to show up perfect, especially if I'm a servant leader. Like I notice that's my style. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I let these people down? Like, what if I don't take care of them? Like I'm responsible, even in my own business. Oh my gosh, like I'm responsible for their livelihood. I have to make sure that I live up to that challenge. It's wild.
I think the most affirming part of this message for me is that it reminded me, like my grandma used to say, every answer is in the book, baby. Right? Like this area was it's so personal. I'm going to say superficial, but that's not the right word. I'm going to say worldly, but that's not right. It's not spiritually rooted, right? When you talk about perfectionism and excellence, like you never equate it to biblical perfectionism, biblical excellence. And so to have a pastor stand up and be like, so all of you are struggling with the same thing and turn in your Bible too, because here's what the Bible says about it. Like it was okay, this is real life application right now.
We have the cheat code. We just don't use the cheat code.
Yes.
We don't use it. That's it.
Normally I say less, but say more, Ava. That was beautiful.
Like the cheat code is in front of us. And I think we get so caught up again, you know, social media is right in front of our hands and we can get on it and be like, okay, what is TikTok saying about this?
But they banned TikTok, so it's going to go away.
What is Insta Reel saying, you know, or what is my friend saying, or what, you know, we are always so quick to turn to everybody else but God.
We need Bible TikTok. Like,
Bible TikTok.
oh, you weren't in Sharee's episode. We renamed the Bible.
Bible.
The Bible.
I got it, and I won't forget it.
Yeah. Yes, that's the Bible for me. So that's Bible TikTok.
Bible.
Like what the Bible say, and then somebody like dabbing and then telling you Philippians 3.
That's the message version of the Bible.
It really is.
It is. It's the message. I'm going to bring it to you so you can have it. The message version of the Bible is like very common. It's just very common. Like you'll be like, is that what it really said?
It's like Urban Dictionary version.
It's like the Urban Dictionary version.
It's called like the message
It's called the
version?
message.
Yeah, the message version.
So it's interesting because Pastor Sean uses the AMPC, and I cannot for the life of me remember what all them letters
the
stand
amplified
for.
version.
And I'm like, and it always
Contemporary?
has
Contemporary.
parentheses or something
He
in
said
it.
that,
And I'm like,
I was like, where's that?
wait, hold on. I don't think I downloaded that version on my app. But like the parentheses, I'm like, now is that in the Bible or did you add that? Like, was that y'all just trying to make me not feel stupid? And so you added those extra words to help me understand? Or I still have that question to this day because I didn't look up the AM
Amplified
version.
Contemporary. So it's just a contemporary version of the Bible.
And it's been amplified
And
with
it's been amplified
parentheses.
with some parentheses.
Yeah.
So those are in it.
Those are versions of the Bible.
I believe
but
the words that are in parentheses are letting you know that's what we're amplifying.
Yep.
But if you take those out, you could just have what the actual scripture would say.
Okay, so if I go and read the AMPC
Amplified.
version, amplified, let's see, it's easier to say.
It is.
It's just an abbreviation for amplified.
Okay,
Like in KJV.
but C is not an amplified.
Contemporary.
That's in that word. Okay, I see what we did there.
The next episode of Faith and Fire is going to be on versions of the Bible.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about our King James and our amplified. Somebody had like the love version or something. We were in our singles small group because that's where my life is given right now.
There might be a love version.
It was something like that. It was something like the love something version. And I was just like, what in the world?
There are a lot of translations. There's a lot of versions out there right now.
Ooh, let's
Which is
read
a
it in
good thing because it
Spanish.
meets people where they are. Spanish is a language translation, not a translation of the Bible.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
We have gone down a rabbit hole.
Slow right now.
God, we want to thank you.
Go ahead, Tracy.
There's nothing.
That was
left
it.
to
That
say.
was okay. Thank you. That was all we wanted to say.
Cheat code.
Cheat code. It is. And I think that's human nature, right? Like we will go to everybody with all our problems. Girl, we will cry to our best friends over everything and then remember that we're supposed to go to God and take our concerns. It is human nature to just do that. And we talk about, Christians needing to be set apart and different, but at the end of the day, we're still human and we're seeking this idea of perfection. And part of it is not running to your friends, not running to social media, and actually, falling on your knees and praying about a situation, which is the cheat code that we oftentimes forget.
Because we be like, girl, he not texting me. And we tell every friend we could think of to ask, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should text back? Do you think I should text back? Should I start a new chain? We don't ask God because he's like, look, girl, I done blocked him for you because he's not
He wasn't
it.
the one for you. It's already blocked. If you would just ask.
You just asked me, I would have told you why I blocked him.
Keep eating that apple.
I see what you did there.
You keep eating the apple.
So here's the question. When did you know you were a perfectionist? Is there a moment when you were like, oh, I get it? And I'll start by sharing mine because whenever I ask a question like that, I'm going to offer up something. So when I was in Landmark, they do like a training, and one of the things they call it like Nope, I don't remember what they call it, but there's like certain things that you learn when you're a child that you then rely on heavily. And it becomes something like that's almost like a crutch. It's something that's made you successful, but you can't not do it. And I didn't have the word for perfectionism, but that is exactly what I got from that is I realized. And one of the ways that shows up in my life is I don't let people in my house unless it's clean. And Ava knows that I'm getting delivered from that because she's seen my messy house right now. But part of it is that's what I started to do. I started to show people the ugly pieces of me because I wanted to shed that. It was wild when I realized it kept me from seeing people. If my house wasn't clean, I'm sorry, we're just not going to be friends this week. Because my house isn't clean. You can't come over. You want to go to Cold Stone together? It seems weird when you think of it like that, but that's also how I not intentionally, and I'm sure it wasn't to this degree for my mother, but she used to be like, if you don't clean the house, nobody can come over. And heaven forbid it's their first time to the house. Because then we have to clean the insides of the rooms, not just close the doors.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, because they're going to want a tour and you will give them a tour if they ask.
And they will eat off real plates with real cups and real silverware. There will be no paper.
No.
Your first time.
Not on the
Now
first
your
time.
second time.
Yes.
You know where
you at
everything
home,
is.
you
You know
know,
everything
go
is.
find-
Hence why you got the tour. You got the tour so you could know where everything was. So the second time you could do it yourself.
Yep. So I think that was the moment for me when I realized, ooh, this may not be serving me. And I started working on it. Now, that's why the ING in recovering, because I'm still working on it. That was years ago. But little things I've opened up in my life, like showing people my imperfection. And I do kind of equate it. I still won't show guys I'm interested in my house when it's not clean, because I still do equate that with being loved. I'm unlovable if a man thinks I can't clean my house.
Right.
And when I really stop and think about that, that's the stupidest thing on earth, but also I still believe it in my core. So, I mean, so for you, like, when is a moment in your life when you realize, ooh, either like I have this perfectionism or this isn't serving me?
I think it was one of my mentors in TV. We had just won like really great awards at Rocky Mountain Emmys. And my news director brought me in the room and was like, listen, you're doing an amazing job on morning. And I was like, I know, we just won. Yes. He was like, you're on top of everything. I get there at 9 p.m. I'm there until 9 a.m. Like all the amazing things I should do, killing it as an executive producer, all the things. And he was like, you're just doing great. Nobody wants to work with you.
Oh.
And so for me, it showed up professionally because it was like, you just told me I was amazing. What do you mean nobody wants to work with me? And then he played back audio of a situation in the newsroom that was recorded because you're on headsets and we record, and I should have known we recorded.
Some receipts right there.
It was. And it was like very convicting because in my pursuit of perfectionism for TV, I was literally decimating everyone around me. And it's great to win the award, right? Like it was like, yes, we did it. Yeah, but you're horrible to work with, ma'am, because you yelled at us like a tyrant. Oh, well, maybe I am. Maybe I need to back down a little bit. And it cost me. And that was when I think the light switch went off. Like, you might be a bit much. You can still be good at what you do. You just might need to come back a little bit. And so it was the professional, not personal, because my house is my house and I'm just not going to open the door for you. Let me be honest. You can knock on my door. My mom used to do that. She had a screen door, leave it open. But if you didn't call before you came over, she would look at it and look at you and keep going about her business. So that for me, it's no joke. But to show up professionally, that's what hurt me because my professional life meant so much that I wasn't looking at how it was affecting everyone else in my pursuit of excellence and perfection and all the other things. It came at a cost for me.
Wow. I can relate to that.
Yeah, it hurt.
Yeah. I think mine was something similar to that. And I could see it in a professional sense, but I was so young that it also it affected my personal relationships because they were so intertwined at the time. And it was something that someone who was older than me that I work with, that I trusted her opinion. She corrected me in a way that let me know that what I had basically, the way that I had approached someone else and the way that I had put my standards onto them without acknowledging where they were and their effort, and their intention and how it just diminished it. That not only did it just not make a difference what they provided to me, that I just killed all of their motivation. And, it was basically a question that she asked me, and it was like, at what cost? And it was that line that says, people will forget what you say, they will forget what you do for them, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And after that, I always wanted to make sure that I was thinking about how I made a person feel. Because you can't take it back.
Yeah.
You can't take those things back. And I can try to continue to be excellent. I'm a recovering control freak.
Mm-hmm. We have classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh,
do I need to bring
all of
chicken,
them.
or should I bring like
Please do
the
bring
rolls,
chicken.
or what am I bringing?
Rolls. What else you got? Potato salad?
Potato salad with the egg,
With
all
the
the
eggs.
things.
Right.
Now I might need to bring it because I'm a recovering control freak. Can I pick the type? Pick the type?
It's
Not
always
mustard.
Popeyes.
Oh, I'm not gonna be eating your chicken.
Can I eat Popeye? Okay, that's another one. Keep going.
Yeah.
I feel you though. Like and after that situation, you're like, I never want anybody to feel like that. Yes. And you're conscious of it to the point where you'll be walking around busy, but you make sure like you make eye contact with somebody. You hug somebody if you're at church.
Yes.
All those things that you never forget that moment. And that's the Holy Spirit convicting, but also you having the spiritual discernment to pivot and never make the mistake again.
Yeah, and as soon as she said that, because she was always such a wise person and she has such a big heart, that I would just melt anytime she would give me any sort of guidance, and I would feel it all the way in my spirit. And I felt that it's never left me. And it reminds me of that thing my grandmother said where, you got to leave people better than you found them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's good.
Oh my gosh, that resonates to my soul. Like as a new leader, that was something that was really hard for me. And I didn't even know, like, everybody's like, they think you're mad all the time. And I was like, I'm never mad. What do you mean? And I never understood it until I became a leader in corporate America. And then I kind of looked back and I understood kind of what it was, some of the stuff that I was doing. And part of it is because I am more direct, I have to stop and I have to take what I wanted to say and then put some words in front of it where I acknowledge what they did, the effort they put in. And then I tell them what I would love to see edited. Like, even if it could be a little thing, I could love a communication they drafted for me and I just want to change a sentence. My thought process is, I'm going to tell you what sentence I wanted to change. And what I realized is I have to stop and say, oh my gosh, this is such a good draft. Thank you so much for pulling it together. I appreciate how quickly you pulled that together. Like, you really captured my voice. So I think in order to really nail in this point, that if we add this sentence here.
You're so kind. I'm still working on that.
Yeah. But I had to realize that because I work with different kinds of people. And if you, as a strong D type in DISC style, if I work with a strong S,
you're struggling.
They are crushed, especially when you're their leader, because all they want to do is make you happy and support you. And so I can't crush my strong S's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, mine, I have many, but I think the one that probably impacted me the most, was working at ASU as a new director and having these young millennials. And I feel like I'm more of a older millennial boss, even though I grew up in the X range. Having boomer bosses tell you how to do your job with young millennials. So you're like trying to, kid glove them, but also know that, okay, we got to deliver. So I used to have these power emails that would be like, we have to do this, we have to do this. And they're like hearing, all she's doing is barking us orders. We don't want to do any of that. And I just was like, okay, we got to find a happy medium. So we'd have these powwow meetings where we just sit down and I'm like, what do you hear me saying in these emails? They're like, you just bark orders. I go, how would you like me to say whatever to you? And they're like, we like it when you write things on the board and to say, so-and-so, can you go do social media posts today?
Really?
And then let us bring back how we're going to do it.
Tracy.
I love the young people.
And I'm just like, okay, we'll try this. They were so much more productive and they were doing exactly what I wanted them to do. So we'd be productive for the boomer bosses that I'm just like, they just want the numbers. They don't care how we get there. And I didn't realize they were hearing me. They're like, you're such a nice person, but you're so mean to us. Aww. And the message wasn't, I'm trying to be mean. I just got to do what they're telling me to do. I got to sit in these offices with these people and just be on numbers.
Isn't that a generational divide?
Yes. We are sandwiched in between it. We are sandwiched in between what the boomers want, which is just the facts, ma'am. It's dragnet. Just give me the facts, ma'am. They don't want to hear all that extra stuff and the fluff. And then the generation after after X is the millennials. They want the story that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. They want the feeling.
And so if you can figure out how to create the story and then extract the facts and then give it to, so you are constantly transitioning back and forth with those different communications, which can be exhausting.
Now that's a fun TikTok rabbit hole right there. Yeah. The different generations at work. Me as a millennial manager.
Oh God, there's a whole TikTok. It's a guy who does it.
Champagne.
There's a lot of different ones.
Crew champagne.
I like to watch Giving Feedback to Gen Z. That one makes my soul tickle because I have the internship and rotational programs, so I get to work with the recent college grads. Oh. But I strongly identify with the millennial manager one, where it's like we start out the one-on-one. It's like, okay, did you catch the concert last weekend? How did it go? And that's like the beginning of all my one-on-ones. We kiki, and then we'll be like, oh yeah, so how is that work thing going? But we build a rapport.
You have to have the rapport.
The rapport is everything. And that perfectionism, I think the boomers, they had to have these evaluations and show the statistics, which, they became our parents, some of us, and our grandparents, and feeling like you always have to produce. I think that anxiety around that and the perfectionism around the numbers. Like, you always have to have these great numbers. Well, what we can learn from bad numbers. We can learn from bad numbers. That 10% you were talking about, we can learn from the bad numbers. But also, you don't have to demoralize to get people to work. And I think for some reason that generation was on that. And now it's like, okay, God is trying to build us up as people. God is trying to build us up as not like, we don't have to constantly be working. He gave us the Sabbath off so we could praise him and not work, you know. So why can't we spend that time, you know, reflecting on why we have to constantly feel like we're on this hamster wheel running and going? It's like, we need to think about the reflection of the rest and the love and the things.
And you brought it to a beautiful place, which, and okay, I really want to hear what Tracy
Well,
has
no,
in her brain.
it made me think about church and church life and this idea of the boomers in my church and their mentality versus the younger folks in the church versus those of us that are sandwiched, and why things happen and why things don't happen, right? Because the boomers function in such a way that they're like, no, this is business. This is standard. This is status quo. This is what we're doing. This is my seat.
They need to adjust to me. I don't need to adjust to them.
Correct. And so shifting we're going to change 11 o'clock worship. We're not going to have 2. Why wouldn't we have 2? We've always had 2. And you have this younger generation that's like, why do I need to be up at 7:30 when I can go to a 10:30 or a 9:30 and still make Bible study and brunch?
Yes.
But because our generations are so different, and I feel like in that moment, I was like, God, the gaping hole between is part of the challenge with church right now. So you're either in a traditional Black church where boomers dominate, or you're at a faith Christian that is very contemporary, very younger, bridging. But like for me, my church, FIBC, has 6 generations, with the boomer being the biggest. So when do you make room for young adults? And how do you make room?
Over my dead body.
And sometimes it's not even over, because they're
Sorry,
like, no,
that's what I feel like the answer is
it kind of
sometimes.
sometimes feels like that, but it's like, no, we want you all to come in. We want young people to come. But do you really? Because when we ask for a 9:30 worship service, you're all like, what about my 7:30? Because I am a 7:30 worshiper. So you can't shift to 9:30?
I get mad when my alarm wakes me up at 7:30 on
God,
Sunday.
I get it. Right, because it's Sunday. I'm like, I get up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. Like, it's that. And it just, like, it literally just, I was like, the gaping hole in Christianity might not be like our differences, but it could be very generational.
Yes.
And how do you bridge those divides so that we can get back to the work of church, capital C, kingdom building?
Yes.
So here's where I think it comes full circle is, and I heard it in your example, and I think it may be the answer in the church too, is that sometimes when you only know one way to achieve excellence, you think that in order to have excellence, it has to be that way.
I'm going to throw my shoe at you.
And what we need to do
Throw my shoe at
is
you.
show them that excellence is possible when we have a powwow and talk about our feelings and write it on the board. That I can still get you excellent results. We could still save souls if we talk about pride in the church, and we could still save souls. Matter of fact, we might save some more souls.
And if you figure out a way to hold fast to the tradition, right? Yeah. I'm not saying throw away tradition. There are some things that you have to have, and there's a way to honor that, but also make room.
Right.
Yeah. But if you're not open to having the conversation, you can't figure out where that middle ground is. You might be assuming that what somebody is asking for is radical when it might just be adjacent to what you have today. Like, I feel that a lot in the AME church, and
Tradition.
It's tradition. And I love the tradition. And what we're asking for is, can we throw in 1 or 2 songs that were written before or since 1980?
Since Kirk Franklin stomped.
Yes.
Do you want a revolution?
Yes. That's all we're asking. We're not saying throw it all away and go to what is the white people worship music, like, oh, like, no, we still want the choir.
Trap gospel. You know there's trap gospel.
Trap gospel.
Yes, there is.
I don't know if I'm asking for trap gospel. That's too much for
It was a lot. I'm not going to lie, but I was proud they made the effort. Like, I was like, I'm not mad at this.
I like the trap gospel sometimes. I don't really, I'm not the hippie hoppity type person.
I like the variety.
Yeah.
I like the variety. I like that. One of the things that I love about Faith Christian Center is that when it is Easter or when it is Christmas, there is a level of tradition that comes in where there might be a hymn that just makes me, I am 6 years old, but my white glove sitting next to my grandmother.
Right.
In
About
that
to give
moment.
an Easter speech or a
Yes,
Christmas
I love
speech.
it. And I love that they do that. And then maybe 2 songs later, we are
Back to Hillstone.
We are remixing something from Kirk Franklin and Hillstone, and I'm here for all of it. Because
Yes.
we are not just we're very diverse. So I love it when church is reflective of that.
Yeah. I don't name that church often, but I love that church because I'd be calling it my black white church.
I actually really like that.
And there's lots of different.
And amazing. Y'all are going to be like, these ladies should never do after the sermon again.
No. And the funny thing is, I'm going to tell the pastor that I did it, and we'll see how that goes.
You could be like, that's why those 5 extra people showed up. They wanted to find out what was going on.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yes.
Pastor Sean, I hope you appreciate this, and I hope you like this
boosting
because
your
I'm doing
visitor
it from a good
attendance.
place.
We are boosting visitor attendance, sir, and converting folks for you.
That's right.
But that's how we do it, is we have these conversations. Like, we open it up and we show. And I think I think the church does a good job of doing this already, but that it's not just something you listen to, right? I'm pulling up my sermon notes. But it's not just something you listen to, take notes, and then go home, but that it's something you can then pull apart and look at. How does it show up in my life with a group of friends? Like, for me, this is like, okay, it's kind of like we went out for lunch after we had the sermon. He said, girl, what we just listened to?
Yes.
Like, did that hurt you too? Ouch. If you can't say amen, we all know what to say.
Or was it crazy? Because, sometimes you get crazy sermons and you're like, girl,
I don't know who that was for.
I don't know who that was for. What book was he in?
Like, that was the book.
Did he take a text?
Like, I was in a sermon once and they were talking about being surrounded by coworkers that were a different religion. And they said, when I'm surrounded by the enemy. And I said, I'm sorry, what?
Oh my.
I was like, that's not the enemy, sir.
No, we just talked about that. Like, just because I'm Muslim doesn't make me the enemy.
Yeah. So that one, we would have had a whole different conversation, but we
Yes.
didn't put that one on blast.
We'll keep it in our back pocket.
Back pocket. Okay. So as we bring it to a point, here's what I really want to know is like, okay, so if we put a finger down, a lot of fingers, how do we get out of it? Like, what's something that we can do and take away from the sermon to do differently in our lives and apply this week, so that way we can try to free ourselves from this perfectionism?
Intentionality.
Ooh, tell me more.
I know me, right? We talked about this. Like, I know Tracy. Tracy really is striving for excellence and perfection and a whole bunch of other things. Listen, but in my striving, I have to be intentional about not projecting, not this, not that, and being aware and have the spiritual discernment to recognize when I'm standing in that situation and to not do it. And that requires a level of intentionality and prayer with your everyday walk. So if I'm walking into a meeting with my millennials and I know they need it written on the wall, it just convicted me because I'm like, God, I got a little young lady underneath me and I, for the life of me, can never understand why things always don't. Well, maybe she needs it different, right? That's the intentionality that comes with this. And then leaning into the scriptures to find the answers. Because if you're not intentional about your walk, you will continue to do the same things over and over again, in my opinion.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
I think also what your pastor had said about you are not your job. You're not your role. You're not you have multiple roles in your life. You have to see what God is saying you are from his perspective. And a conglomerate, you are all those things. But what are you as his creation? And when you're caught in these moments of perfectionism, I've started actually just stopping and breathing. Just feeling my own breath, feeling my spirit, and being like, okay, why can't we fix this problem? Or why are we stuck? I just shut down. When I think I'm overwhelmed, I just shut down. So I'm just like, okay, if you're shutting down, get back into who you are. And then I might say a prayer or just say, okay, God, I'm going to try this again. But taking the break away from it.
I like that.
I'm going to say make it personal. You got to keep it personal. It's every single one. And I'm envisioning, I'm a visual person. I'm envisioning a spin class and we're all on our own little bike. And we're not going anywhere. We are dying. We are waiting for the music to stop so we can get over. But every single person is at their own speed.
Ooh.
You're at your own speed. You need different things at different times in different moments in your journey. Just because we can all see each other doesn't mean we're all in the same place. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes and this is one of the things that I do love sometimes about being Bedside Baptist, is that it's all about what I need in that moment. It's so personal. It is so personal. I can just literally be like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm trying to figure out. This is what I need to hear from you. This is what I'm working through. And it's so personal that regardless of when he was talking about, this, I was like, oh, okay, we real personal right now. We're going to talk about this. But understanding that the things that drop in that are just for you at that moment are just for you, and the timing of those things. Understanding the timing of those things, that, when you get the revelation or the understanding or the clarity, that's what you needed when you needed it. Not when someone else needs it, not when someone else gets it, but that when you get it when you need it, that you can move forward with it. So that part for me is just like, okay, let me just, I'm working on this part right here. Can you give me a little help in this area? Really appreciate that.
That's nice. I think for me, the thing I took from it is just delegate. And I mean, truly delegate. So not just where you hand something to somebody and then you breathe down their neck while they physically do it, but they've got their hands on it, but you're really like telling them every step of the way, but like truly let go. And it comes to my mind, like I was throwing a big event, and by I was throwing a big event, it means I had a vision for an event. I told my manager, and she planned the whole thing for 3 weeks and followed up on all the leads, got all the vendors. And then I showed up and I wanted the table to go in a certain place. And because I'm the boss, she was going to let me put the table where I wanted it. And then I had that moment where I said, now wait a minute. She's been working on this for 3 weeks, real hard. Jessica, let her put the table where she want to put the table.
Right.
Oh, nobody noticed but you.
Only you knew the table was in the wrong place.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong. Yeah. We debated whether it should be under the table, under the TV, or off to the side. And I said, but it won't be centered. And she's like, but then they'll be in the center and it'll be off to the side. And we had a whole 10-minute conversation about that stupid table. Do you know how much it mattered? 0. So delegating and letting go in that way. And yes, I still have my moments where I struggle, like that 10-minute conversation, but then being like, if I'm going to delegate this, if I'm going to let somebody else put in all this work, I need to let them have their way.
And delegating to God.
Oh, that's even better. Let's do your point.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's literally using the cheat code and being like, okay, God, the table situation is what it is, but just in your everyday life with situations, sometimes you just need to delegate to the person who has all the answers. And we forget that as humans, but yeah, delegate.
Yeah. Call them up.
Tell them what you want.
Yeah.
Told them.
It's coming.
Oh, not the one I was thinking. I think the answer's no on that one.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
I don't know what it was, but I feel a word in my spirit.
See? What's the word?
I don't know.
The word. Call him back. Okay. We've gone down here. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today.
Yes.
This was
yes.
Okay. So let's look forward to having more of these as we unpack more sermons. Maybe next time we get a nice one from FIBC. Do they got the onlines? Did the boomers know how to use the internet?
They do use the internet. Dr. Stewart is a very intellectual preacher. So his conviction, when I get convicted in his messages, it's because he's thrown this scholarly, like grounded, rooted. So it would be interesting to see how others who don't typically hear him receive some of the messages that he has. That actually would be very interesting. It would be.
You start going through the catalog and you find us something real good. Okay. I'll let you think about that.
Pray about it. We'll figure it out.
I'll pray about it. That's the right way to do it.
Isn't
you got to delegate up.
The cheat code.
Delegate up.
Use the cheat code. Use the cheat code.
So, delegate up. Use the cheat code. We need a shirt. Okay. Well, thank you, ladies. And thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you coming in on our little conversation. Hope you enjoyed brunch. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you join us again. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so that you can hear more conversations on Faith and Fire.